Well, hello, perhaps again. This is a series of several, at least a couple of dozen, if not more, recorded video lecture sessions dedicated to a number of undergraduate courses here in the city of Rome for a number of different undergraduate universities and their satellite programs. Specifically, RL 221, the Popes of Rome, History of the Catholic Church; RL 225, Mystics, Saints, and Sinners, Studies in Medieval Catholic Culture; THL 360, History and Theology of the Papacy; and THL 363, the New Testament in the Eternal City. With that said, again, welcome, especially to those of you who may not be actual students enrolled in these courses, but for your own enjoyment, entertainment, if not hopefully broader education, are also joining us. So welcome to everyone. For students, this corresponds to your worksheets and outlines week one. Kind of an introduction, but also to get right into the heart of the matter for all of these courses. To begin with, I personally have no idea why anyone would be interested in studying religion, per se. And this is coming from someone who has studied this and many other things for a lifetime. However, it is impossible to understand how the world is the way it is today, how we got here, what the future may hold, without having some basic understanding of this thing we generally call religion, and more specifically, its context within Christianity, one specific religion, the Roman Catholic Church, and the city of Rome. This is of interest to actually everyone beyond those in courses enrolled in religious studies or theology or even history. This should be of interest to anyone involved in economics, political science, international relations, among many others. With that said, the approach to these courses, all of them, is the following. Number one, these are not courses in apologetics. From the Greek and Latin terms apologia, apologium, meaning in English apology, apologetics, and apology. What does that mean? When you make an apology, what are you really doing? You are making an appeal to someone else whom you may or may not have offended. At least they perceive that you have offended them, and you are appealing to them, persuading them to forgive you, reconcile with you, etc. That's what the word apology really means. It's an appeal. And in a religious context, apologetics is the practice, the skill, the art of appealing to an audience to persuade that audience that my particular religious belief system is truth, is reality, and moreover, how and why one should follow this particular religious belief system. That is not what we do in this course. So this is not a course in apologetics, okay? We're not trying to persuade or dissuade anyone from religion in general or any particular religion, specifically Christianity or the Catholic Church. Okay. Number 2, this is not a course in catechesis, from another Greek/Latin word katechesis, meaning to teach. But in a religious context, teaching in the sense of indoctrination, for lack of a better word, or at least educating the neophyte, the newcomer, the newbie, or the would-be believer, or the practitioner of the faith already, into specific details of practicing that particular religious belief system, understanding more deeply, more profoundly, a variety of nuances within different tenets of any particular religious belief system. So it's not a CCD class. It's not Sunday school. We're not presuming that anyone is or is not a member, a believer, practicing, lapsed, relaxed, retired of any particular religious belief system, and again, specifically Christianity and the Catholic Church. So, not a course in apologetics, not a course in catechesis. Anyone who is a member of any one of or more of these courses, or joining us just for the sake of entertainment or broader education, if such a person has come here as a believer already, let's say in religion in general, a religious belief system, or specifically in Christianity or the Catholic Church, if one has come here as a believer, yeah, you're going to be challenged. If one has joined us as a non-believer, you're going to be challenged. If you've come up in this video lecture as a whatevs, well, then you'll probably already leave. So we don't care. All right. With that said, that's a segue then into the first formal outline and structure of all of these courses. And for that matter, how to learn, how to hone the art of critically thinking for oneself, by oneself, not just for these courses, this particular material, but for life itself. Yeah. These are not courses in spirituality. If what we are engaged in these courses is actually material that can be objectively analyzed, studied, etc., then there must be some kind of structure, at least, that we can follow, to which we can adhere, that will assist us in this endeavor. And indeed there is. And we break it down, to begin with, into two main sections. Okay, this is going to be very theoretical, this first lecture session. Very theoretical, very heady, but it's important because it will give us the foundations and basis for understanding and building on everything else that will develop throughout the rest of the lecture series. So, to begin with, two big words here. And I'm not going to be repeating this throughout every lecture session, maybe every now and again, occasionally, to remind students actually enrolled in the courses. But please follow through the outlines and worksheets, and you will see all of these words and terms along with which you are fastidiously taking your own notes. Okay, so two big words to begin with. Paradigms and semiotics. Paradigms and semiotics. Paradigms. It's written paradigms, but it's pronounced paradigms. A fancy academic term meaning models. A paradigm is a model. It could be a model for anything. For our purposes, to begin with, a paradigm of how human societies form. How do human societies form? Has the thought ever occurred to you? In other words, why aren't all human beings, the vast majority of them, living by themselves in huts, in caves, off somewhere on their own? How is this? Anthropologists have posed this question and studied it over the past at least couple centuries. And depending on which thinker, anthropologist at least, you're looking at, they all have a variety of different lists. Maybe there's 7 reasons, 5 reasons. We, for our purposes in this course, and remember, by we I usually mean me, we have 3, okay? Just 3. There's 3 reasons. And they are based on something called needs. Needs. There are 3 basic fundamental human needs that wind up drawing humans together in a society. And the reason why these 3 particular basic human needs are so important is because in religion, in a religious context, across the board, across the globe, all civilizations that have any religious belief system, they wind up taking on an immense amount of religious symbolism. Those 3 needs: water, sun, and specifically in the case of Rome, tree. Number 3, tree / grapevine. Water. Terrestrial life cannot survive without it, including and especially human beings. Most human beings, most life, at least developed, advanced biological terrestrial life, usually consumes more than just water, so food. Number 3, tree / grapevine. It's a nice glyph, symbol, if you will, to capture the concept of at least food, nutrition. The second one, in between water and tree, grapevine, sun. You're not going to get a tree unless you have a process known as photosynthesis. So water plus sun equals tree. And notice that tree provides at least 3 other things. 1, obviously food, the fruit of the tree, shelter, and fuel. Okay, so water, sun, and tree. These 3 fundamental basic human needs wind up taking on an immense amount of symbolism in all religions throughout all of human history. That is regarding our paradigms for how human societies form under another term called semiotics. Semiotics, 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 from a Greek word semeion, meaning sign. Okay, how to interpret, understand what are not just symbols, but even signs. A symbol represents something else. A sign not only represents that, but actually indicates, communicates, tells you what else you should do in the future. Okay. So that's the first part of this first of 2 big words here, paradigms. of how human societies form based on human needs. Something peculiar to Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens, human beings, as we understand ourselves to be, something peculiar happens. It appears to be unique to our particular species of animal life on planet Earth, although, again, anthropologists, at this point, even urologists, biologists are studying other, at least mammalian species to see if there may be some vestige or inkling of this in those species of animal life as well, but we'll leave it to human beings at this point. Something bizarre happens within the human species that does not seem to happen among any other kind of life form on Earth. Obviously animal, but even plant, below that, etc. That is, humans, for some reason, tend to desire, at a certain point, desire more than we need, which anthropologists like to call wants. Human beings move from needs, satisfying basic needs for survival, for life, to wants, accumulating more than one really needs for survival and life. And these wants lead to a series of three developments in how human societies form. So let's pretend, all of you out there, basic human needs are being met. And suddenly all of these humans, because of that, what we just described, have gotten together in a tribal village. We now have a village. And everyone's going about their daily routine, their life, managing these needs, managing the fulfillment of these basic necessities for survival and life. And at a certain point, to one of you, we don't know why, it just kind of happens, a light bulb goes off. And one of you, let's say it's, I don't know, Stan, suddenly has the idea to accumulate more than Stan actually needs. Okay? Stan is gathering more water and food, let's just say, than Stan actually needs. Time goes by, and suddenly another member of the village notices what Stan is doing. And, kind of like a chain reaction, the same light bulb goes off. And this individual doesn't even really recognize why. Let's call the individual Kyle. All right, Stan and Kyle. All right. And Kyle says to Kyle's self, why does Stan have more than Stan actually needs? Moreover, why do I not? Why does no one else here in our village not have more than they need? I don't know. But I kind of like the idea. And so Kyle approaches Stan and says, look, I noticed that you have a lot more than the rest of us, a lot more than you actually need. And I don't know why, but I kind of am interested in that. In fact, would you be willing to give me a little more of your food if I give you some of my water? I have more water than I really need, I think, or at least I can cut back on it, but for some reason I'm taken by the fact that you have a lot of food. and I'd like to have a lot of food. It's really a win-win situation for Stan, and at this point, it technically is a win-loss situation for Kyle, but it could be productive for Kyle as well in the future. Stan says, well, I don't really care because I have more than I need of both, so sure. In any event, I'll get more of what you're giving me, namely water, and I still have more than I need of food, so that's fine. And in doing so, in your village, Stan and Kyle have just created the first oikonomia. Oikonomia. O-I-K-O-N-I-M-I-A. Oikonomia. From which we get the English word economy. They've just created your village's first system. System. The word, the ancient Greek word, and then transliterated into Latin, oikonomia, in English, economy. It simply means system. That's all the word means. System. We, moderns, contemporaries today, usually immediately think that's a financial system, right? A market system. And that's not a mistake, because indeed, as we've just demonstrated, the very first system to arise is based on an exchange of goods and services. Not based on needs, however, based on wants. As an aside, the ancient Greek word oikonomia comes from the ancient Greek word oikos, meaning house. Think about that. What is a village? Notwithstanding Hillary Clinton's 1990s mantra of it takes a village to raise a child, well, it actually takes a house, which is part of a village. So in Greek, oikos, from which we get the word oikonomia, economy, means house, the first system, the nuclear family, if you will. Okay. So the first system, called an economy. Again, not to belabor the Clintons. 1992, former President Bill Clinton of the United States of America. What was his famous winning slogan? It's the economy, stupid. Because in the end, it's all about this. Not money, but this, whatever this may be. Therein lies the joke. Okay. Time goes by. So we got the first system created, the economy, the system itself. Time goes by, and one day, someone else in the village, let's call the person Wendy. Wendy wakes up, boop, light bulb goes off, and Wendy notices what Stan and Kyle are doing. Moreover, she notices that Stan and Kyle not only have more than either one of them actually needs, but it continues to grow, and they're the only ones that have this, that have more than they need. No one else in the village does. And Wendy gets a bit angry because it does not seem harmonious. It does not seem in balance. No one else in the village has this, so why these two? What's so important about this? And Wendy is this close to going to the rest of you in the village and tattletaling, telling on Stan and Kyle, letting you know what they're doing. And it doesn't seem right. It seems that it may throw everything out of harmony or out of balance. And suddenly, the same thing that happened to both Stan and then Kyle happens to Wendy. Wendy says, you know what? I think I may enjoy a piece of this action. I want to get a piece of this pie. And so one morning, Wendy approaches Stan and Kyle and says, "Ha! I figured out what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And I could tell everyone else in the village what you're doing. But I have to be honest. I kind of like the idea. Moreover, I would like a piece of the action. And I realize if I tell everyone else, that may not work for me. So how about this? You let me in on a piece of your action. I won't tell anyone. And in fact, I will help you. I will ensure that no one else in the village discovers this. I'll help you to manage this system you've got. I will help you to control this system you've developed. I will help you to manipulate this system so that no one else figures it out." Stan and Kyle look at each other and they say, "Well, do we really have a choice? Maybe not. Do we really stand to lose anything as long as we go along with this? Maybe not. Probably not. Time will tell, but this is the first system to be going on, so okay." And now Kyle, Stan, and Wendy have entered into an agreement and consequently have produced the second system, which arises in any human society, which the ancient Greeks called a polis. I'm sure you have heard of the term in English, metropolis. I'm pretty sure everyone has heard of the term of the police. Right? Those terms in English all come from this ancient Greek term, polis, usually translated inaccurately, or at least not completely accurately, as city. That's not what the term meant for the ancient Greeks. The term actually meant not just society, even better, rather the manipulation of citizens of a society. Think about that. Polis, the manipulation of citizens of a society. So when people say nowadays, it's all politics, they're right, but for the wrong reasons. The joke's on them, because that's what the term actually means. The manipulation of members of human society. The second system to develop. All right. Life continues in your village, our village, until one day, yet another member of your village, let's call him Leopold, or Butters for short. Butters finds himself outside of your village on the only roadway leading into and out of your village, half naked, starving, certainly doesn't have more than he needs, and doesn't even have his basic needs, and doesn't even know how this happened. So much so that he's half naked and starving outside the village boundaries on the only road into and out of the village. Okay. None of you notice Butters because, as these other two systems have now developed, a lot more activity has developed within your village. And so everyone becomes more and more preoccupied and busy, it's understandable, with going about their daily lives, trying to maintain their basic needs, not even thinking, most of you, about wants, except for Kyle, Stan, and Wendy. All right. So you don't notice Butters sitting on the side of the road outside the village. Consequently, Butters is left to his own devices and begins thinking, contemplating about his lot, his situation. And two further strange things happen. Strange because they appear to be unique to, again, the human species. Two things happen. Number one, the notion, the idea of looking for patterns or designs. Butters is sitting there and observes, rightly so, the sun rises, the sun sets. It rains, the grass grows, cows eat the grass, cows defecate into the grass, cows eventually die and themselves decompose into the grass. The sun rises, the sun sets, it rains, the grass grows. You get the idea. That is, there appears to be a pattern to everything, albeit maybe imperfect, because in the end, cows die, but it seems to be a harmonious pattern, a design which is in balance. Everything, even though we don't understand it completely, seems to have a part in the greater scheme of things. It's certainly much more perfect from Butters' perspective than these other systems, these patterns, these designs that Stan, Kyle, and Wendy have come up with, right? Yet they're imperfect. This seems to be something at least better. And I know that Stan, Kyle, and Wendy didn't create it because it was already here. So, number one, humans look for patterns, designs. Number two, and this perhaps is even more fascinating. As far as we know, the human species is the only species of terrestrial life that looks for something beyond terrestrial life. That is to say, all terrestrial life avoids